Okay guys, we're back. So, I pretty much just kind of took care of all the loose ends and stuff like that so that we could actually get this set up and ready to go for our new motherboard. Now, there's still a little bit of dust in here, which I'm not going to be too awfully concerned about that, but I am ready to put the prize in, so let's get to it. What we're going to do is we're going to grab this guy here. Actually, oh guys, I am so excited. I am super stoked. Okay, so we got two different boxes. Alright, one box has all of the connections and such that we're going to need. And the other one holds our motherboard. Look at that. Is that not a thing of beauty? Oh. Alright, so let's get this cracked open, shall we? Alright, make sure that I'm touching my motherboard, taking all the static out of my hands. Alright, so now with this, they definitely say, you know, handle it by the edges and stuff like that so that you can put it in there. What I found is one of the easiest ways to do this is on most of the motherboards, your fin set here is actually pretty sturdy. So is this right here for your CPU socket, okay? So what I found a lot of times is I just use my CPU socket to try and set it in there. So, oh, whoop, you know what? I totally forgot about this. What we need to do, and I do this almost every time, I don't know why. I really don't know why. Alright, so on the back side of your case here is this. Alright, this plate has got to come out because that was for our old setup. This one would not match our new motherboard. So they just pop right out, okay? And all that does is it just kind of keeps the airflow from heading straight over that, which, I mean, you want good airflow, but you also want your backside to look pretty. So these are very handy, and they're pretty much motherboard specific. There's not one that's just universal or has like universal punches where you can just punch stuff out. It would be kind of cool if they did that, but as far as I know, they don't. Anyway, let's get our new one. Now, this is sweet, sweet, sweet. Alright, so just get that package opened up right there. Alright, so here's our new one. Alright, and this one actually has some foam on it. So it's going to insulate pretty well. Now, there's a few differences between, what did I do with that old one? Oh, a few differences between them, okay? So if you look at the back side, some of these have the little stabilizers that sit on different parts of it. This one doesn't have that, okay? These are a pain because I don't know how many times I've tried to put these into actual, or put motherboards in, and I've managed to get caught up on these, especially on the Ethernet port. This is the worst one ever. The Ethernet port, a lot of times these will end up bending and get caught up on the inside, and then you can't plug in your cord. Oh. So, anyway, we've got this one here, and the easiest way to remember is that when these actually go in, I've always found that when you go to put these in back in your case, is that if it does have that PS2 port, which some gamers still use, like I do, a PS2 for the actual keyboard and stuff, is that this will always go towards the top. So that's all we're going to do. We're just going to fit that right in there, and these just snap in place, guys. And depending on your case, it should be a fairly simple procedure. You just pop it right in there, just make sure that it's in on all four corners. And sometimes they have little bumpers around, but the easiest way to tell is just to kind of look over here on the side. Alright, if you look over here on the side and it looks even all the way around and your little nubs or whatever are sticking out, then you've got it set. Alright, so we're good to go with that. Now, time for the motherboard. Alright, cool. So what we're going to do is we are going to very carefully, and this is heavy. I gotta say, I'm really kind of surprised on the weight of this unit here. It's a lot heavier than I thought it was going to be. It's a little bigger than I thought it was going to be too, but that's okay. So now that we've got that in place, the easiest way to tell is you want to make sure that you get your on your back plate here. Okay, when you put your back plate in, that's what's going to guide you to putting your motherboard in. So we've got that one set up in a good spot, and then when you look through onto your screw holes, that's going to be the next thing that's going to tell you whether or not you've gotten your motherboard in place correctly or not. Now sometimes you see how I'm pushing the motherboard a little bit and it's wanting to kind of come back out. What you end up having to do, a very simple way to resolve that. What do I do with my, there it is. Very easy way to resolve that is to take one of your first screws, alright, and I do this on the front side of the motherboard. I'm sure that somebody else is going to say, no, 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 you don't ever do that, blah, blah, blah. It's how I do it, okay? Anyway, you get one of these set, and that will just fit right there. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten it down until it's basically tight, and then I'm just going to back it off just a little bit, so that way it's not tightened down, because if it's tightened down, then it can just create problems. Now what we're going to do is I'm just going to grab the parts here for the AM3 socket, alright, to where the fan actually connects onto it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that and I'm going to push this over a little bit. I'm going to find the next available screw port that will work, and I'm just going to put that in place, and then I'm going to tighten it down just a little bit, not a lot, just an, oh, I actually need some new, whoops, this board is bigger. It is bigger. So, alright guys, my mistake. Here's what we're going to do. I'm actually going to have to take this out here for just a second, because what I'm going to need to do is I need to get some more risers put in on my case, because there's one, two, looks like 3 extra screws that my other motherboard did not have. So let's gently take this out. Let's do a little bit of a comparison here, guys, just for fun. Take a little bit of a comparison. Alright, so you got 2 motherboard. Oh, let's see if I can switch this one around. So you got 2 motherboards. They almost look like they're about the same size and everything, right? They're close. They're really, really close. The difference is when you stack these up next to each other like this, you can tell that the one motherboard is just about a ½ an inch wider. This one's a ½ an inch wider than the old motherboard. So not too bad. Good sized for sure. Good sized. But just enough to where we gotta make a couple of adjustments. So give me just a second here, and let's see. Now I've been doing motherboards for quite some time, so I've got all kinds of risers and this and that and the other thing, and I'm going to grab a couple of different ones here because I'm not sure how tall these actually are. I don't think that one's going to be tall enough. I think this one actually takes the bigger risers for the motherboard, if I remember correctly. Let's just see. We'll use our other one instead of using that new one over and over and over again. We're just going to temporarily set this in here to see whether or not that's, I don't know. It almost seems like it's a little too tall. Well, let's take one of these, and what we'll do is, it's a learning process, guys. You gotta learn a little bit. So what we'll do now, we'll set that in place. That one's too low. I have a feeling. I could have swore that I had to put risers in on this case for all the different ones, but it looks like, well, I'm going to go with the, better to go with ones that are a little tall, I think. And I don't really think that they're that tall. It's just somewhat deceiving with that actual, with that motherboard that I've got put in there. So how many do we need? 1, 2, I think we just needed 3, right? I'm pretty sure it was just 3. So we'll set that over there for the moment. Actually, I only need to add in 2. So we'll do this. And if you guys are ever curious about what kind of a case would make a great case, there's plenty of different case manufacturers out there. And one of my favorites, honestly, is Antec. Antec makes a lot of really good cases. They've got some that have a lot of really good options. I had an Antec case for one of my other builds that now my son, Tweeter, has. And really great case. Really great case. So let's try and step those guys out of the way just a little bit. Oh man, this motherboard is so pretty and it matches up with our color scheme so well. Oh yeah. Oh, there we go. I think that's gonna do. Actually, I think those will do very nicely. Alright, so remember what we said, we're gonna put one in first. Get that down a little ways. So it's tight, back it off just a hair. And then we will move the top side over until it actually lines up. Alright, so now that we've got that one in, we can go ahead and kind of lock it down a little bit. We'll lock this one down. You know, those risers are just a little bit tall. I think I'm gonna, instead of having that completely tight, I think I'm just gonna do it until it just touches. Because really there's not a whole lot that we're gonna need to like push down on in the middle. The hardest part, or the worst part that you have to ever push on, is basically just this 20+4 pin. So that's why I want to make sure that it's set up and stable there. So with that being said, guys, we are about halfway through the process here. That one doesn't seem right. Alright guys, well, this is just one of those processes that you kind of have to go through. Normally I wouldn't have to do this, but whenever you go to screwing stuff in and something doesn't feel right, don't force it. Don't say, oh, it'll be fine, and just smash down harder on it. That's never a good thing, ever. You want to make sure that everything fits just right, because with computer electronics, if you ever go to smashing something in, oh, that can be a disaster waiting to happen. So go ahead, we'll just set that back in there for a second. And see, pliers, gotta use them. I don't know, these just don't. Oops. Alright. What is the dealio here? Something just isn't right. Those look like they're all the same size, but they're just, I don't know. Something's a little weird with that. So that's why it's kind of nice having an extra supply of risers, because then you can add stuff in. I think I found the ones I need. I think it's these. I'm almost positive. So we'll put those back for the moment. Don't fall over now. So I got a feeling that these are probably going to work a little better. Yep, I think so. I think these are definitely going to work a whole lot better. Now the reason I say that is because they're not as tall as those other ones, but they're not as short as the other ones. So let's grab you right quick and we'll just kind of fit you in there. We're using you as our guinea pig. And yep, I I think that's the winner there, guys. I think we have us a winner. Now there's a couple other variables that can happen too, is this plate here on the actual case can get warped or bent. You know, different, whoops, like I just did. I just bent that all to smithereens. Some of those things will actually make a difference on, you know, how your motherboard actually fits in there. So you want to try and make sure that it's not bent. You know, that can be a very bad thing. Come on, just work with me here, will you? All right. So we got that all in there. Oh yeah, yeah. They're sitting right to it now. That looks good. I think we have ourselves a winner. Move that up just a smidge. I don't know what your deal is. All right, let's get back to it, shall we? Let's put this one in here. And trial and error, guys. If you're going to be in the computer industry or anything like that, you're going to find that there is a lot of trial and error. The last position that I was in before the one that I'm at now in the place I worked around computers all the time. And honestly, I mean, that's what a lot of it was simply trial and error. You'd try one thing, if it worked, great. If it didn't, well, you'd have to start over and try again, figure out something different. And that's what a lot of computing is. It's a lot of trial and error. And that's just one of the things that you kind of have to get used to. Which I don't mind, you know. And doing something like this where, you know, it's like a hobby, you know. I mean, doing computers and stuff, I mean, I've got everything from Apple computers to Windows PCs. I've even used Linux off and on for some stuff, you know, and it's a great operating system. I love using Linux, to be honest with you. Okay, so we've got that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. Oh, we're missing a couple yet. And come on, put your fat finger in it, Manny. I got these little black screws. I want to use these instead of the silver ones because they look so much nicer by the time it's all said and done. There we go. Oh yeah, that's much better. Board's nice and flat. Got all of our screws going in here. This is beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Alright, and look at that. I mean, black motherboard, black case, red parts around. We got red in the middle. Oh, that's cool. I know that you guys can't see it, but like right here, this little red piece, if you look at it from the end, it has the G from the Republic of Gamers. Just like this right here. That is cool. I didn't realize that they actually integrated that in like that. That's fantastic. Good job, guys. Nice job, Asus. Nice job. But you know what I didn't do? Remember what I said about trial and error, guys? Oh man. Well, I don't know. I know this cord's long enough to do it. The question is, do I want to route it all the way up and around? Is it long enough? No, it's not. Because it's got to go clear to there and then to that. Oh. Alright, well, remember what I said, guys? Trial and error. Trial and error. So, if you guys haven't already left, I'm glad that you're staying here because this is going to actually be pretty fun. And this is probably going to be a little longer of a video than what my normal ones are. But you know what? I figured since this was like a tech style video that it might be worth it to have it a little bit longer. I know some people like to see tech tips where They're just, you know, they get in, get done, and get out. But some of the stuff where, you know, I want people to understand that not everybody's an absolute 100% professional. You know, if you don't do this for a living, you're going to see my mistake. You're going to say, oh, yeah, he forgot to run that. He should have done that. And then you're going to, you know, hopefully you'll remember that when you ever go to do your own build and you'll be like, oh, I forgot to do this. Well, you won't do that because you'll remember and you'll watch Manie's video and be like, oh yeah, Manie, he forgot to run his CPU power supply, and I'm not going to make that mistake, and you'll do it quicker than I did, and you'll do it right. So, come here. Thank you. Alright, so we're going to have to move this guy out one more time. I don't remember actually having to do this many times with my other build. I probably did though, because I spent the better part of an afternoon actually working on all of the different stuff. Now you might be screaming at me saying, Manie, that's not the right place for that. Well, it's not going to hurt anything. Trust me. Because by the time that we actually get this all done and put together, that's going to run up through the back. Nobody's ever going to see it. It's not going to affect the motherboard, and it's going to be a beautiful thing. Beautiful. Alright, so make sure I get all those cords out of the way so I don't stamp on one of them. There we go, they're all out the way. We got this in the back now. Now let's make sure that, yep, you'll fit in there. And a little longer than what it really needs to be, but now that's the other thing too, guys, is when you go to putting these together, there's clips here. Don't try and put those in a different way than the way that the clip is designed, because it won't work. I kind of learned that the hard way. It was just one of those type of things where I was trying to put together a board and the clip wouldn't go in, and I was like, almost started to force it, and then I thought about it for a second and went, you know, maybe I don't need to force this because it is a computer case. And come to find out that I actually had the power connection or whatever upside down. So it was just it wasn't actually upside down. Some of them have just a single 8-pin connector. And I don't think I have any I can show you, but all it does is it's that single 8-pin connector, or it's a single. So this one had a full 8-pin connector and a 4-pin. Okay, that's because this is a pretty beefy power supply. Some of those don't always have that. They just have an 8-pin power connector. And remember how I was showing you on the 20 plus 4-pin that you have 20 and then a 4? Well, some of them have an 8-pin, but it's 2 4s. So you end up having to put them together for an 8-pin, or you have to separate them for just a standard 4-pin. So like some of your, you know, your computers that you would buy from like a big box store like Walmart or Sam's or Best Buy or something like that. Okay, most of those have a dedicated power supply that's been designed specifically for that computer case. And a lot of times what they'll do is they will have a just a normal 4-pin connector, and sometimes they'll have an 8-pin, but not very often. So, you know, if you have to get a new power supply and your motherboard only takes a 4-pin power connector and you've got an 8-pin on your power supply, that's where it usually splits it. And actually I think what I'll do is I'll show you that real quick, because I actually have one sitting right here. So, like, is this? Nope, that's just a 4-pin. But there's just your standard 4-pin power connector. And sometimes what they'll do on other power supply units is they'll actually take this connector and there's basically another one. So it would look, you know, now use your imagination, guys, because this isn't the same. But they'd basically be you know, kind of together like this. Well, only one of them would plug in, the other one's just hanging there, unless you have an 8-pin power supply connector that's given with your power supply. Then you would take like both of them like this and then click it in. But anyway, that's a discussion for another day. All right, cool. So we now have our, see if I can get this up here for, oops. Far enough up here for you to see that now we actually have our CPU and basically our 12-volt power connection connected to the motherboard, and everything's ready to go. Hopefully you guys can see that, I hope. So anyhow, so we got that in there now. That's a PCIe connector, which we're actually going to be working on here fairly soon. The next thing that I want to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to connect our 24-pin connector. All right, so we now have that going. So that's actually going to supply power for the motherboard itself. This one up here was pretty much just for the CPU. I mean, that's a lot of power for a CPU, but that's just what it's for. It's just the CPU, guys. Now these are going to be a little bit more interesting, and I think actually what I'm going to have to do, because these are my SATA connections, okay, and they come in through the side. My other board, they were up on top. So this guy is actually going to have to get rerouted just a touch. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to bring him up and around through here. There we go. There we go. That'll work. That will work. Yep, I think that's going to work nicely, and that should still give us enough room on the back side here to where we can get our door closed. Yep, it's going to be a little tight, but I think it's going to do okay. Shouldn't really have any big issues with that, I don't think. Actually, I think what I may do is, yep, I think I'm going to reroute that one more time. This is, like I said, guys, part of the trial and error, because like when you put this all together, what you're going to want is you're going to want this to make sure that you've done everything to the best of your abilities to make sure that you get the maximum amount of airflow, okay, because airflow is huge. You definitely want to make sure that you get the maximum amount of airflow. The next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to make sure that all your cords and everything will work. So like I have these, you know, kind of coming up through the back. Now there's not a lot of space here, but when I put my back panel on, that should still fit. There should be plenty of room for that to go. Now this pan here, I kind of wish they would have built this a little bit differently so it didn't have this edge, but there's not really a whole lot you can do about it. I think it'll be fine. I don't think we're going to have to worry about it. So let's see, we have our power connectors right there. Let's see, probably the next thing that I'm going to want to do while I have this pretty much open is we're going to want to take this, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and install my CPU. Alright, so we just lift that little lever up and it actually hinges, so this little bar here actually comes out and then up. So pretty simple. Now the one thing that you definitely want to do is with AMD processors, hopefully you guys will be able to see this, but there's a little orange triangle right here. Okay, it's on this corner. That is very specific to the actual motherboard, and there'll be a small indent. Now I don't have any way to show you, the camera just doesn't have the resolution for it, but there's always a little indent of a triangle, and that's where you want to put that in. So it should just bink, drop right in place. Okay, so now that that's in place, we're just going to go ahead and lock the processor in. Processor's solid. If you go to set it and it doesn't drop in, then that means that you haven't lined up your triangles. Okay, so you'll have to put that into a different spot. But it looks like my battery is starting to go down on the camera. So guys, what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pause it here, We're gonna get the camcorder charged back up and then we'll resume where we left off, okay? We'll see you here in just a minute.